Was that the best game that Syracuse football has played this season?
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on today's show, we are going over the big picture takeaways from Syracuse's 44-41 overtime victory against UNLV on Friday night. It was a thriller. It was a great post-game recap because while Syracuse kept us up late at night, it was all worth it because the Orange got it done. And on today's show, we're going to talk about, was that the best game that Syracuse has played through 5 weeks this season? Leave a comment below if you agree or disagree if that was the best game that Syracuse football has played. Then we're going to talk about McCord and Fadil Diggs. Fran Brown said in the post-game press conference that if those two play well, Syracuse is going to win. And guess what? Those two played really well. And finally, the RB depth. We talked about it heading into this season, that Syracuse has a really good running back room, and we saw it on full display on Friday night against UNLV. So once again, big picture takeaways from Syracuse's victory over UNLV on Friday night. And this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, maybe this is hyperbole. I understand. I get it. And I've had the opportunity to sleep on it. Was it a perfect game? No, it was not perfect. I don't think Syracuse has played a single perfect game through 5 weeks. When that's understandable. But I think that was the best game that Syracuse football has played this season. And I'm going to tell you why. All right. I have 3 factors as to why I believe this was the best game that Syracuse has played this season. Number 1, the Orange on the road for the first time this year got off to a fast start. Especially on the road, it is imperative that you get off to a fast start. I know it was maybe more Syracuse fans in attendance, but for any UNLV fan that was there, they were pretty quiet for the first quarter of this game. It is imperative that the road team does that. Get the opposing fans and the noise, bring the energy just down a little, and, well, rile up your own fans. It's important to get off to a fast start. Syracuse was on defense at the beginning of this game. They forced a quick 3 and out. Then the Orange, they drive right down the field for a touchdown. It's 7-0. Then UNLV obviously gets the ball back. They get something a little bit going, but the drive stalls, in large part really because of themselves, kicking themselves in the foot, right? A holding penalty, a bad snap. Then on 3rd and 20, even if UNLV had converted it, there was a holding penalty that got declined. So either way, it was either going to be declined. It was either going to be a conversion, but taken it back because it would be 3rd and 30 due to a hold, or what happened, which is that Syracuse got the stop in the end. So the Orange forced another punt. And then what did we see on the next drive? Bing, bang, boom. Syracuse goes right down the field once again to take a 14-0 lead. And the best play on that drive was when McCord lining up under center. Very uncommon for this Syracuse offense when McCord lines up under center. A fake handoff to the running back. He finds an open Oronde Gadsden through the middle of the field, then cut it to the left sideline, and I believe he got 26 yards on the play. It was a perfect example of running the football sets up the pass, right? Because on the first drive of the game, McCord was under center for one play. He handed it off to LeQuint Allen. LeQuint Allen got no yards. It wasn't even a positive running play. But because Syracuse had already shown their hand that they will try to run the football, that's when it opens up the play action. Everyone got sucked in, and there's an open Oronde Gadsden, an All-American tight end, wide open over the middle of the field for a first down. So it's very important that you get off to a fast start on the road, and Syracuse football did that, and that's one of the reasons why I believe this was the best game that Syracuse football has played to start the season, which, by the way, we're almost at the midway point. We've played 5 games. Next game is the 6th, right? Which is going to be NC State on Saturday night. Number 2 of why I believe this was the best game for Syracuse was they took advantage of UNLV mistakes. Every time UNLV made a mistake, it felt like Syracuse capitalized on it. Remember that second drive of the game from UNLV, right? They were kicking themselves in the foot. A holding penalty creates a 2nd and 20. Then a bad snap creates a 3rd and 20. But still, it's one of those scenarios where, yeah, your opponent is screwing up. But when your opponent is screwing up, don't interrupt them, right? It's the classic money ball. They're screwing up. They're making errors left and right. Leave them alone. Keep letting them make errors. And that's what Syracuse was doing on that drive. We saw in the beginning of the second half when Syracuse took the lead 24-21, UNLV obviously gets the ball right back. And I think it was on the second play of that drive, Malik Williams throws an interception. It was a little bit of a lucky bounce. It bounced right into Deuce Chestnut's chest. He didn't have a choice but to catch the football. But still, they get a turnover. And on the very first play after that turnover, that's when we saw Yasin Willis get his first career touchdown in college, a 26-yard rushing score. So that is an example of UNLV making a mistake, maybe getting a little bit of a lucky bounce, and making them pay, right? When your opponent is making mistakes, don't interrupt them and cash in on those opportunities you get. Jackson Woodard, he dropped a game-winning interception. Point blank. He dropped a game-winning interception. And my goodness, if he catches that ball, we're looking at this game in an entirely different light. I have to acknowledge that. Because that would be 2 red zone interceptions for Kyle McCord, both in the 4th quarter. And it would have been one of the main reasons why Syracuse lost this game. But guess what? Woodard dropped the ball. He dropped it. And on the very next play, what does McCord do? He finds Jackson Meeks on a fade route for the game-tying touchdown. Once again, your opponent makes a mistake, they commit a penalty, they drop a pass, and you take advantage of it. That is the sign of a really good football team when you can take advantage of opponents' mistakes. How often have we seen it with Syracuse being on the other end of that, where they would make a mistake and all of a sudden it's the other team that's capitalizing? And UNLV did some of that in this game. But we've seen it go drastically the other way against Syracuse. So it was nice and refreshing to see, for a change, the Orange capitalizing on their mistakes. They also punished UNLV for being way too conservative with the clock. Barry Odom, clock management. My goodness, you need to go play a game of Madden, man. That was pathetic clock management. Forget the first half for a second. The second half, Syracuse had all 3 timeouts. Time was not a problem on the game-winning touchdown drive. All right, they had all 3 timeouts. They had 3 minutes to go down the field. They were good on time, and they were moving very efficiently. So it was no problem. But Barry Odom decided to sit on his 3 timeouts, only have 23 seconds when they get the ball back, and they kneeled. They kneeled it. And they played for overtime for some reason. I don't know why. I think they could have had the Syracuse defense at the end of the game. Whatever. They made the mistake. Barry Odom made the mistake. And guess what? What happened in overtime? Syracuse won the game. See? Capitalizing on their mistakes. UNLV got a roughing the passer on 3rd and 20. 3 plays later, Syracuse wins. So one of the reasons why I believe that this was the best game that Syracuse played is because it seemed like every time UNLV made a mistake, the Orange capitalized on it. And opponents are going to make mistakes. So is our team's going to make mistakes too. You got to be able to take advantage of them. And that's what Syracuse did. And finally, why I believe this was the best game that Syracuse football played all season, they fought through adversity. They really did. There were multiple instances in this game they could have just rolled over, given up. They're going up against a ranked team on the road. It would be understandable if they lost. They're the underdogs, 6.5 points, right? It would have been like a quote-unquote acceptable loss by public perception. They could have just rolled over and quit, but that's not what they did. They did not quit. They kept going. They knew that they could win this game. Syracuse was up 14-0, and in a blink of an eye in the second quarter, it's 21-14 in large part, well, because UNLV tied the game, and then there was a block punt. And UNLV capitalized right after to make it 21-14. But guess what? No problem. Syracuse went down the field, kicked a field goal, went into halftime, got the ball back, then scored a touchdown. And just like that, without UNLV touching the ball, Syracuse goes back in front. In the third quarter, Syracuse led 31-21. It's looking pretty good. We're all excited. We're thinking, man, we're about to get a big win here. UNLV kicks a field goal. All right, 31-24. Now our offense is back on the field. They stall out. And another block punt. And this one was directly a touchdown because of the bounce that it took. It's 31-31. No panic. 31-31, fourth quarter. Syracuse drives right down the field. But oh my goodness, Kyle McCord threw an interception in the red zone. And on top of that, UNLV goes 94 yards. 94 yards to take the lead 38-31. Syracuse had 2:59 and 3 timeouts left. And they went down the field and they tied the game and then won in overtime. So they kept fighting through adversity. There were plenty of instances where, my goodness, this game could have gone south. But they found a way. They fought through the adversity. Yeah, they had 2 block punts. They still won. Do we need to correct the block punts? Do we need to correct the special teams? Absolutely. I'm not saying that we can get away with that going forward. But one of the reasons why I think this was the best game that Syracuse played this season is because they dealt with adversity. They were on the road against a ranked opponent, and they found a way to win. That is what good teams do. They find a way to win even when they're not necessarily on their A game. I think this trumps the Georgia Tech game because Georgia Tech, that was a home one. They were at home. Everyone was pulling for Syracuse for the most part. I think it's better than how they showed against Holy Cross, certainly better than Stanford, and I think it was better than Ohio as well. This was the best game that Syracuse football played all season long for 3 reasons. They got off to a fast start, they took advantage of UNLV mistakes, and they didn't panic when they dealt with adversity. So overall, just a fantastic performance by Syracuse. And yeah, we could have looked at this game a little bit differently if a bounce goes here or there. But the Orange found a way to win. That is what matters. 44-41 in overtime over UNLV. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out this stat that it's the first time since 2001 that Syracuse has 2 ranked victories in the regular season. And for what it's worth, Syracuse went 9-3 in the regular season in 2001 and got 10 wins overall. And what Fran Brown said in the post-game press conference is that Syracuse made one more play than UNLV. And that's exactly how I felt. So once again, I believe that this was the best game that Syracuse has played all season long. If you agree with me or disagree with me, leave a comment in the comments section below why I am right or why I am wrong. All right, coming up, let's talk about Kyle McCord and Fadil Diggs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And LinkedIn is something that I use all the time to find the latest job opportunities. But LinkedIn, it's not just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Let's talk about Kyle McCord and Fadil Diggs because they were 2 heroes for Syracuse football in this one. And don't worry, we'll get to LeQuint Allen in the running back depth later on in the podcast, because I'll be honest with you, I think LeQuint with his 4 touchdowns was the MVP. But the reason why I want to talk about Kyle McCord and Fadil Diggs is because Fran Brown mentioned something very interesting in his post-game press conference, and I'll summarize it for you. He said that if Kyle McCord and Fadil Diggs play up to their abilities, Syracuse will win this game. And guess what? Both of them played up to their potential, to their ability, and that is one of the main reasons why Syracuse won 44-41 at UNLV, the second-ranked win of the season for Syracuse. Let's start with the offensive side. We'll go with Kyle McCord, who was 40 of 63, so that is 63%, and my goodness, 63 passing attempts, but I can't even be mad at it. Syracuse ran almost 100 plays for the game. They had the ball almost the entire game on offense, so I can't even be mad at 63 passing attempts. But anyways, 40 of 63 for 63%, 355 yards. Kyle McCord is making 300 yards look like 200 yards at this point. He's just slinging it all over down the field. He had 3 touchdowns and 1 interception, and as bad as that interception was, I can't even really be that mad at it, because if you're throwing the ball 63 times, you're bound to make a mistake. It's going to happen. I actually looked at the numbers before this and for the season stats, and Kyle McCord's interception rate this season is he's thrown 6 picks in 5 games, but it's only like 2.5%. He's just throwing the ball more than anyone else in the country right now. And when you throw the ball more, you're more likely to make a mistake. So I don't really think that he has much of a turnover problem, in my opinion. I also want to shout out this offensive line for Syracuse football, because they deserve a lot of credit. They really do. They've been much maligned these last few weeks for their pass protection, or really lack thereof for pass protection. Kyle McCord threw the ball 63 times, as I have mentioned already, like 3 times now in this podcast. Sorry for being repetitive, but no sacks. None. And to my eye test, I didn't even see a lot of pressure either. Where there are times where Kyle McCord saw pressure, maybe a little. He had to roll out a few times, but it wasn't like every single play. It wasn't overwhelming. And whenever there was a blitz, Kyle McCord did a nice job of getting rid of it quickly. He found his hot receiver multiple times in this one. He had a check down on LeQuint. He found Trevor Pena. He was sensational at recognizing the blitz and getting it out to his hot receiver, the hot route, if you will. But this offensive line was terrific. If you remove the Jack Stonehouse, quote unquote, negative 13-yard run, because the first block punt was technically not a block punt, Syracuse had 32 carries for 150 yards, which is 4.69 yards per carry. So the O-line, no sacks allowed, 4.69 yards per carry. They were sensational. Back to Kyle McCord now, all right? He started this game 11 for 11. He didn't necessarily spread the ball to every single player like he usually does. The first 4 weeks of the season, Syracuse would have 8, 9 pass catchers a game. In this one, not as much. I believe maybe only 6 players caught a pass, but 4 players on this team caught at least 8 passes. Oronde Gadsden, LeQuint, Trevor Pena, and Jackson Meeks. Trevor Pena and Jackson Meeks, aside from Jackson Meeks' touchdown, had the quietest 8 catches you will ever see. You didn't even really notice them, and then you look at the stat sheet, they each had 8 catches. I thought what made McCord really good in this game was that it was his anticipation and recognizing when UNLV was in zone coverage. Because when UNLV was in zone coverage, he knew exactly where to go with the football. It's why we saw at times Oronde Gadsden was just wide open. Them two were just clicking. They were clicking in this one. They saw the defense clearly. Oronde Gadsden knew exactly where to go in the zone, and Kyle McCord did not miss him. That is what made Kyle McCord in this one. And not only that, again, it goes back to the overall theme of the game, which was fighting through adversity. We have seen so many times through these first 5 games now where Kyle McCord makes a mistake, it doesn't rattle him. We think about the 2 times, the 2 interceptions against Stanford. The drive after each of those interceptions, Kyle McCord engineered a touchdown drive. He's really good. He doesn't get rattled. He's very mature. He's going to make mistakes, but guess what? You can always count on him to bounce back from that mistake. It's not necessarily about avoiding the mistake. It's about how you respond to it. And Kyle McCord does an excellent job of that. Let's now go to Fadil Diggs. He had himself a great game. He finished with 6 tackles and 2 sacks. Both of those sacks were his tackles for loss. He was flying all over the field in this one, and he's being asked right now to do more than really anyone else on the defense because he's really a defensive lineman, but he's being asked to play on the D-line, and he's being asked to be a linebacker because, well, all ACC linebacker Marlo Wax is still out with an injury, a lower body injury. And hopefully he does get back soon, right? We got a 6-week timetable when he suffered it in week 1. So I remember doing the math on it with Marlo Wax. If he comes back early, it'll be Saturday against NC State. That would be terrific. If it's where he's supposed to be, it'll be for the Pitt game right after that. So you're looking at probably 1 to 2 more weeks with Marlo Wax. But with Marlo Wax out, Fadil Diggs is basically playing 2 positions. He's lining up everywhere. He's a quarterback spy. He's rushing the passer. He's on the D line trying to set the edge. And there was one play in this one where he got super unlucky because it was a first and goal or whatever. It was a goal to go situation, and it was a busted play, a bad snap for UNLV. Second time in the first 18 plus minutes of the game that they had a bad snap. And Haj Malik Williams corralled it, and nobody was setting the edge because, well, it was a busted play and they got maybe a little bit too aggressive, but I call that unlucky. Bottom line is that Fadil Diggs was all over the place, and as Fran Brown said, if Kyle McCord and Fadil Diggs play up to their abilities, Syracuse will beat UNLV. I thought both of them did exactly that, and let's hope that this defense can get Marlo Wax back soon so Fadil Diggs can just line up on that D line, pin his ears back, and just go rush the passer, because that'll certainly help out this pass rush. All right. So we talked about maybe this is the best Syracuse game they've played all season. We just went over Kyle McCord and Fadil Diggs. Let's talk about the running back depth because, my goodness, I told you guys in the preseason, this team has a lot of quality running backs. I love going to live sporting events, and honestly, it doesn't really matter what the sport is. I just love the energy in the building, and the way I get tickets for games is by using Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. And Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And my favorite feature is the curated deals. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever you would like, and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. One of the main reasons why Syracuse football beat UNLV, their running back depth. LeQuint Allen and Yasin Willis had themselves excellent performances against UNLV in their 44-41 overtime thriller. The second-ranked victory of the season already for Syracuse football. The first time that has happened since 2001. Can you believe it? With a first-year head coach and a brand new coaching staff, 2 ranked wins already. Unbelievable. Well, let's go to this running back depth. And let's give a little bit more context here. There was no Will Nixon in this game, and reports out there suggest that it could be for quite a while. Will Nixon, the Washington transfer, the son of running backs coach and offensive coordinator Jeff Nixon, he's injured. So he did not play against UNLV. And when I do have an update on Will Nixon, I'll be sure to share it on the podcast. So he's out. He's the backup running back, a very good receiving back, also has shown some burst running the football as well. It's not a loss where you can just say that's nothing. But when you look at the running back depth that this team has, it doesn't make Syracuse miss Will Nixon as much as you might think, right? Talked about before the season. Syracuse is an all-ACC running back in LeQuint Allen. He can do it all. He can do it all. He can run the football between the tackles. He can cut it to the edge. He can pass protect. He can catch passes at a really high level. One of the better receiving backs, honestly, in the entire country. He's your workhorse. Okay, Will Nixon is out, but that's all right because they got a bowling ball of a true freshman in Yasin Willis, who also has some legs. All right, he can move a little bit. He can scoot. I believe he ran some track in high school, if you go look at his bio. He can move. So they got two quality running backs, even with Will Nixon out. Two of them. And LeQuint Allen, he had 4 touchdowns. 2 on the ground, 2 on the air. He saved the game with that rush on 4th down and 1 at the end of the 4th quarter where he was dead to rights and he broke a tackle. And then he broke a tackle on the game-winning touchdown. He just refused to go down. And Fran Brown mentioned in the post-game press conference, he was dinged up. He was hurt. And there was a reason why there was a stretch in the second half where we only saw Yasin Willis on the field. We're like, where's LeQuint Allen? Oh, he was hurt. And it didn't matter. He was playing hurt. And UNLV still couldn't stop him. And how about Yasin Willis? Let's talk about him. A true freshman, pretty decent height coming into the year. I thought he could be a contributor for this team. And he's exactly that. He is a contributor as a true freshman. He had his welcome to Syracuse moment. The play after that Deuce Chestnut interception was a 26-yard rushing touchdown from Yasin Willis, the first of his collegiate career. So congratulations to Yasin Willis. And overall for the game, 8 carries, 62 yards. That's 7.8 yards per carry. I don't think anyone's going to complain over that. So he was really good too. Ultimately, look, guys, there was a reason why heading into this game, I was pounding the table for Syracuse to run the football more. And yeah, I cited the reason that, look, when you run the football, it does set up the pass. We saw that play action play to Oronde Gadsden in the first quarter. It does set up the pass because the linebackers get sucked in. But there's another reason. There's another reason why I like when Syracuse runs the football, and they should do it more often. It's because they have really good running backs. They're really good. They're talented. Feed them the ball. Fran Brown mentioned in the post-game press conference, when they got that reprieve, that roughing the passer call, Fran Brown was like, we are running the damn ball in the end zone. That's what he said. We're running the ball in the end zone. What did they do? Ran the ball in the end zone. These guys are good. Keep feeding them. Plain and simple. Thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On ACC podcast. And quick side note, ACC squad next week, it's going to be pretty fun, right? Because Syracuse won. It's always better when Syracuse wins. And, well, Locked On ACC is hosted by Alex Dono and Kenton Gibbs. They keep it real. They bring the truth from maybe an outsider perspective, right? I'm a little bit of a homer. I'm a Syracuse fan, all right? I'm a Syracuse fan, Syracuse alum. It's a Syracuse channel. So maybe they keep it a little bit real, all right? Kenton Gibbs and Alex Dono, they tell you where your favorite ACC team stands within the conference. You can find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And that about does it for the big picture takeaways from Syracuse football's 44-41 overtime victory over UNLV. Was this the best game that Syracuse played all season? I think so. Leave a comment in the comment section below if you agree or disagree with me. We went over McCord and Fadil Diggs because they played up to their abilities in this one. As Fran Brown said, if they play up to their abilities, Syracuse will win this game. They did exactly that. And we rounded out the show talking about the running back depth that even without Will Nixon, a very, very capable receiving back who I have liked so far this season when he is on the field, it didn't really matter because LeQuint Allen is really freaking good at football, guys. And so is Yasin Willis, the true freshman back. We got ourselves a bright future at the running back position going forward. All right. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this video, click that like button. And if you really liked it, subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications so you know right away when I'm dropping the next podcast. And everyone, take care.